Once upon a time, a small group of young people had talk. They were just having a cozy conversation when suddenly one of them stood up and said, "I feel that our voices are not being heard enough." Everybody else became silent and then nodded. Another one stood up. "We want to be included." And another one stood up. "We want to sit together with decision makers to address the topics that matters the most. We want to co-create policy and be part of shaking and shaping the life of today and the future." Some youth policy makers overheard the conversations, and they thought, "What a great potential! The future should be done together. We need youth voices." Together, they looked for a meaningful way to bring together young people and policymakers to work side by side. They agreed the dialogue should be happening at local, regional, national level to address specific needs. They also agreed every half a year to meet at European level and organize EU Youth Conference. The EU Youth Conference will take place twice a year and will be hosted by the country that holds the EU presidency. The main idea was to create a process for discussions between young people and policymakers, to make sure the opinions of young people are taken into the account in defining the EU youth policies. Structural dialogue was born.
But how will this work on a bigger scale? Young people formed national working groups to coordinate the consultations at national and European level, with the great help of international youth organizations. Then the DJs came on board. DJs, waka waka waka. And some expected loud music and wild dance because they've also heard something about a youth working party. Party time. Well, sure, it has to be fun as well, but also meaningful. And by the way, DG stands for Director General, which is the ones being in charge of youth policy at the ministries. But still, this was a lot to take in, and they needed someone that would help with this coordination at the European level. So they gathered various actors, European Youth Forum, European Commission, and the two presidencies, and they formed and shaped European Steering Committee. Everybody was eager to try out this thing and traveled all over Europe to influence future youth policy. They went to Spain, to Belgium, Hungary, Cyprus, Denmark, Poland, Ireland, Lithuania, Greece, the Netherlands, Slovakia, and Malta. They discussed the topic of youth employment, youth participations, explored social inclusion, tackled the subject of youth autonomy with the access to write and to engage in a diverse, connected, and inclusive Europe. Shakers and shapers, young and maybe not so young, from all parts of Europe, they were running consultations and promising and proposing amazing policy recommendations and implementation plans, all with the same desire to improve the life of young people.
But then, the 5th round of structured dialogue finished. What's next? Will this continue? Europe has been going through many changes. The current EU strategy is coming to an end. And it needs to be updated. It needs to be upgraded. And there, out of the blue, a small but lovely country in Northeast Europe, where birds are singing the nicest songs, we did, I see one bird there. Where winter comes earlier, where Skype has been born, a country where every newborn baby gets an email address as the first thing in life. Where e-voting is becoming a norm and startups are popping up mushrooms after a rainy season. You can pick some of them here. Estonian presidency was up for taking a challenge. They were determined, as all previous presidency countries said before. We are going to create the best EU Youth Conference ever. We are the champions, as a singing nation, they started to sing right away. We are going to create the best EU Youth Conference ever. Do they all say that, right? It was clear this conference will be something special. They spent endless hours during days and nights making sure everything will be ready. They found an old factory and turned into a creative space with their own little hands to support their conversations and ideas. They flew people all over Europe to Tallinn, delegates, experts, researchers, some famous media teams and organizers. They even found a few facilitators. There are David and Piret to host them at the Creative Hub. And now, when I look around in this room, I wonder, many of them are already thinking, what the heck is going on? When do we actually start this conference? When do we start unfolding this peak topic of ours, youth in Europe, what's next?
So what is next? How does the story continue?
We'll see.
Now?
Right now, right here.
And I think really what is next is for us to kick off this first conference of the sixth cycle of the structured dialogue. And for that, we have the official opening. We proudly would like to welcome you, the Prime Minister of Estonia, Jüri Ratas.
Honorable audience, dear young people, I'm very glad and I'm very happy to welcome all of you here in Tallinn today. This conference has brought together an impressive group of young people, representatives of youth organizations and policymakers to discuss youth policy and to explore what really matters to young people today and their ideas for the future. In recent years, youth issues have been an important focus of the European Union, especially youth employment, skills, education, and voluntary work. More and more policies, programs, and activities aim to provide opportunities for young people to participate in free time activities. In Rome, the leaders of 27 member states and of the EU institutions pledged to work towards a union where young people receive the best education and training and can study and find the jobs across the continent. Last year in Bratislava, we set an objective to provide better opportunities for youth. We agreed to prepare EU decisions to support member states in fighting youth unemployment and on enhanced EU programs dedicated to youth. In addition, last December, the European Council called for work to be taken forward on Commission initiatives dedicated to youth. These included mobility, education, skills development, and the European Solidarity Groups, which creates opportunities for young people to volunteer or work in projects. The EU has also successfully implemented Youth Guarantee and youth employment initiatives, by supporting young people who are not in education, employment, or training. This ensures that in the parts of Europe where the challenges are most acute, young people can receive targeted support. The Youth Guarantee has become a reality across the EU and has helped to improve the lives of millions of young Europeans. Another successful example in the European Union's Erasmus Plus program, a funding scheme to support activities in the fields of education, training, youth, and sport. It celebrates its 30th anniversary this year and has a huge impact on the lives of young people in Europe. It supports good practice, youth exchange, and initiatives, democracy projects, volunteering projects, youth seminars, and trainings. In this context, I believe it is very important to keep the spotlight on youth. We have to make sure that youth issues and the whole youth sector remains high up on the European agenda by supporting initiatives for young people in the future European Union strategies and multi-annual financial frameworks. Dear audience, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's also important for us that young people themselves can contribute to the development of the EU and all member states. In order to involve young people more, we have to find new forms of participation, development, the habit of them having a say and recognize learning experience gained through participation. This is why in Estonia involving young people has been a basic value for a long time. A week ago, 16 and 17 years olds had the opportunity to vote in the local government council elections for the first time, making Estonia one of the few countries to do so in the EU. It gives another example. There are more than 60 local youth councils across Estonia, participating and giving young people's point of view in discussions which are most close to their own lives and environment. I already mentioned volunteering and the European solidarity groups. This is in line with our objective of keeping the support and engagement of young people as political priority at the highest level. I believe involving young people is an important value and builds the foundation for a stronger democracy across our societies, now and for the future. In our presidency priorities, we have focused on three main topics. The first, the future of young people and the youth field in the EU. The second one, smart youth work. And the third, youth volunteering, including the European solidarity groups. Our everyday life and work are more and more influenced by digital solutions and services. And Youth Wheels is not an exhibition. Digital and new innovative solutions can be used for reaching out to young people, involving them, and understanding them better. As we observed at the Thailand Digital Summit, digital skills are the new literature and should be taught universally. The digital economy offers major opportunities for our young people. including through startups and self-employment. In Estonia, young people are the everyday users of digital services like identity, e-voting, e-school. In addition, open youth centers use e-solutions for mapping young people's participation in their activities. These are only some examples, as there are more ongoing developments in the creation of new and innovative tools for better involving young people and youth workers in learning and in society. Dear participants, during this conference, you will have 3 days to share your stories and debate and discuss what is important for you today and the ways ahead for the future. Be active, bold, and creative during these discussions, as it is your own future that you are creating here. All your ideas are important, and it's time to make them count. Let me be ambitious and fly high, because Europe needs your energy and, of course, your vision. I hope that your ideas will find their way to the next European Youth Strategy and to another programs and visions. Let me conclude by wishing you all once more a very inspiring conference. Fruit will stay here in Estonia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for hosting us here and to really inspire us with those thoughts. For sure, we are going to take all this with us for the next 3 days. Thank you very much. So, we heard those words, structural dialogue, EU youth policies, future EU youth strategy and all this. But let's just make sure that we're all on board, that we all understand what we're actually doing here, what does this actually mean. So, structural dialogue, it's a process gathering young people and decision makers to talk together, to work together, to propose recommendations together, implementations plans, to really go deep into the topics to see what actually matters for young people. And we're going to do this here as well. So far, we had already 5 cycles of structural dialogue, and within the Estonian presidency, we are starting the 6th cycle. After Estonian presidency, Bulgaria is going to take over, and we will meet all together in Sofia for their EU Youth Conference. And after Bulgaria, Austria is going to conclude the trio, and they will host the EU Youth Conference in Vienna. In this whole trio, the main topic we want to explore is youth in Europe, what's next? But working on all this, the trio presidency countries are not alone. Here, it's also European Commission who is providing an opportunity and contributing to the process as well, and European Youth Forum. And together, they create this catchy and very nice format called European Steering Committee. So let's give a round of applause for all the stakeholders who brought us here, allowing us to explore this topic here in Tallinn.
Yay.
So, our time and contribution here during this conference represents only one part of a larger process. So, if we look at the different stages where we are, right now we are in the first phase, which is more orientation phase. It's about opening the place, about blue sky thinking, gathering opinions, and creating an opportunity for broad conversations in order to get orientation where this could lead us. After this phase, the second phase, it's going to be a consultation phase. After this conference, based on the guiding questions, we are going to start with the wide consultations all around Europe, gathering young people's opinion, and we are going to bring all this to the next conference in Bulgaria. There, in Bulgaria, we want to focus on what. What do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? What do we want to change or maybe propose? There, we're going to set up some goals for the future, youth goals. And then we will continue with the third phase, implementation phase. Because we don't want to leave it just with saying, what do we want? We want to also be part of the implementation. We also want to have a say, how do we want to do it? So in Austria, we're going to focus on how the recommendations could be implemented, how the goals could be achieved. And all this, also with the timing that we're having, fits very nicely into the broader process happening right now at the European level. The current EU Youth Strategy is coming to an end, and European Commission is running a broad consultation process on how the future EU Youth Strategy should look like. And of course, we here want to contribute to this as well. The result of our work is going to be one of the input. Because it is important to say that we are not alone in this process. There are plenty of stakeholders, many more young people, different organizations, national agencies of Erasmus Plus program, and so many more who care about the future of young people in Europe, and all of them are also providing inputs for the future EU Youth Strategy. So we do have an important task here during this trio presidency, but we're not going to rush it. But we're rather taking it step by step. At this conference, one of the first steps is going to be to explore what really matters to young people. What are the themes? What are the topics that we want to address? What are the burning issues? What are the questions hidden behind all this and the questions unspoken? So during this couple of days, we want to focus exactly on this.
And I just want to pinpoint a few things on what we will actually get out of this conference. And throughout the day, Thea Perret and I will walk you through what is the principles we work with here and how will we actually do this. And I understand that for many of you, this is what you do every day, and this makes perfect sense. But there might also be some in the room where understanding all these processes might be a bit new. So we're trying to get everybody on the same page and understanding what's going on for this conference. And we just focus on the coming days of unfolding. And there are 4 desired outcomes for the days here with us. So when we leave on Thursday, hopefully we have made visible the diverse themes that are, meaning what is important to you and the young people you represent. So what are the burning issues, the topics? What are the things that are not being set out at the moment? So not only necessarily the classical political themes, but what are the things that actually need a place to be spoken right now? And we try to, first of all, map that, and then also create a space to talk about what to do with that. That mapping and the conversations we'll have throughout the conference will feed into the coming consultations that will be here starting from November in the national in the countries. So it's guiding that, and you'll hear more from also the researchers in a little while of how it's actually feeding into that and what are the specific details in that. And then, as the Prime Minister say, hopefully the things from this conference will go into the future European Youth Strategy. So this is one among other many inputs to the youth strategy, and the things here will be feeded into that. And then as a last part, you're both here as individuals, as ministry representatives, and as representatives for young people in your country. And hopefully you also get some inspiration or new perspectives you can bring home to take action locally. Yeah?
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
And we're not alone exactly here, right?
No. Keit, I think we should get you up here to tell about that we are not completely alone. I see some cameras around, and I also see some social media feeds.
Yes, I've seen you also online. It's interesting pictures coming up as well.
I saw myself with ears,
Yes,
so.
maybe we also discover something new about ourselves,
Yeah.
new perspectives. Yes, just to say, indeed, not everybody could come. As Estonia is a small country, we couldn't feed everybody in. And of course, you, as being here, are invited to take part of the social team action. But there is a whole team supporting us, and I see somewhere there on the left hand of me, Kristen, together with a team, is hacking the social media. Kristen is waving. But our Estonian National Youth Council with a team is providing us all the input regarding tweets and Instagram and photos. And for each day, we have a certain task or a question of the day as well. So today we are going to explore what matters to young people in Europe. So all the tweets will be related to this question that we are exploring together here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and we should mention as well that there are plenty of people who are not with us in the room, but they are following us right now because we are broadcasting this session as well. And throughout the dates here, we are going to be visible on different social platforms, and everybody who are interested can follow our discussions on a website as well. So you have to be aware that there might be plenty or thousands or millions of young people watching you right now.
So if you want your friends to see this on the youthcons.eu website, there's a live stream link, and it's also available later if you want to.
Yeah. So you haven't seen your mother and father for a long time. You're so busy, and you just can say that, hey, I'm online.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there are also very many cool people here in this room. Could we also explore who is here?
Yes, we can. So let's see who is in this room. Maybe start by just having a look at the table you're sitting at, looking at the people, just nodding, saying quickly hi, like who are you actually surrounded by?
Yeah, waving like on the other side of the room. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to do a short overview of who is actually here. And we will do it in a way that when I call out something that you can identify yourself with, you stand up, so the rest of us can see like who many of you is in that category. We'll start off and see if it works. So all the youth delegates, please stand up. Yeah. Give him a hand. Thank you very much. Then have a seat, and then I would like all the ministry representatives to stand up. Yay! And then I would like to see the European Steering Committee. Are you here? Yay! And then representatives of the European Commission. Ta-da! And can we see all the Estonian organizers stand up? So it's both ministry representative, Youth Work Center, Talent Music Week. And some of them are probably standing in the back. Yeah. And then people coming from countries within the European Union. Please stand up. Okay, thank you. Have a seat. Then other people, other countries, like we have representatives for the Eastern Partnerships here, I know. So if you're from other EU countries, have a seat. Warmly welcome as well. And then the National Youth Council of Estonia, they're here as well. Then we have 2 researchers. Are they here as well? Yay! Give them a hand and we'll bring them on stage so you can hear a bit more later. Then we also invited a group of people to have a role not as keynote speakers, but as keynote listeners. So please stand up. Give them a hand as well. Then we also have a visit from Coyote Magazine. Are you in the room? Yay! Then we also have a few day visitors from Estonia, like students, local students joining. Are there any day visitors available today in the room? No. They might be here tomorrow. Give them a hand anyway. That one, yay! Welcome. And then we also have some local Estonians that kindly volunteered to be a part of making this conference come alive. So all the volunteers, please stand up and then let's give them a big hand. And I think, thank you. If someone feels like they haven't been seen or haven't stand up, it's time to scream now.
Yeah,
we're good.
I was thinking that it's like, you know, when you go to a wedding, they're always like wedding crashers, or how you call them.
Yeah, maybe someone...
maybe they're also like conference crashers. Like,
who crashed our party?
Yes,
you can show
crashed
up. Yeah, you can stand up. Okay, so yeah, indeed, we have quite a lot of people here in the room, and we're all going to work together, but let's hear some more inspiring words from the guest speakers for today. Yeah?
I think we should, so take it over, Thea.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to have a little chit-chat about what this conference is all about, what should be all about, how are we going to work, what does this mean for the future. So I would like to welcome here on the stage the head of the European Commission's representation in Estonia, as he have been worked previously also in the Ministry of Economy and Communication, and as a strategy director in the government office, he plays a crucial role in the discussions about the future of European Union in Estonia, and from the European Commission side, also in youth issues. Kasemets, thank you very much. Welcome on stage. The next one is the president of European Youth Forum, who should be the most known person in the audience, as he is the one who must reach the biggest amount of young people and their opinions in Europe through their Europe-wide member organization network and cooperating national youth councils. Luis Alvarado Martinez, join us here.
Thank you, Thea. Hi.
Then we have a representative of Estonia in the Erasmus Plus Changemakers Network. Have you heard about this? Changemakers are people who have achieved change in their community, inspired other people, and developed innovative ideas in field of youth and through their projects under Erasmus Plus program. Anett is a young person and a youth worker who illustrates the positive and human impact of it. Anett Männiste, welcome on stage. And we have Peter Mladenov from Youth Policy Director of the Ministry of Youth and Sport of Bulgaria, representative of 6th cycle of structural dialogue, knows how to bring grassroots levels issues to the national policy making and vice versa, I believe. And all this is also needed during the coming Bulgarian presidency, where Peter, you're going to hold the position of a chair of the EU Council Youth Working Party, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Welcome.
Hello. Hi again.
So, how are you? All good?
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah? Okay, so we can start. And of course, if you feel like you want to share something as well, feel free to comment on Twitter, think about the questions, what do you want to express. We are using digital tools, so you can use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and just share your thoughts with us as well. So, Keit, how does the European Commission see youths today? What is it happening at the European level related to what matters to young people today?
First of all, of course, I would like to say that already today, Europe has a lot to offer. And I think you all experienced that also when you came here, I don't know, by the plane, or maybe some came by the ferry or by the car. So it's very easy It's very easy to travel. You don't see any border checks whatsoever. By the way, this year there is a 10th anniversary for Estonia to be a member of Schengen. And there are many other, I think, this kind of very crucial policies that has become part of our everyday's life. And I think this is also relevant when you discuss here during these days, that you don't lose that from sight, that what is already there, and it's not for granted, which means that we have seen in the past years that it can actually easily also disappear. So I think one of the tasks is also to keep that in place, what is already there. But of course, we should not stop there. We should look to the future also. What the Prime Minister also mentioned is the Bratislava summit, where he, together with other heads of government, launched the roadmap for the EU, which has very strong emphasis to youth also. And I think this discussion, the youth in Europe, what next, it's not only crucial from the youth policy perspective, but also from the broader EU future perspective, because as you all, I think, well know, the Commission has launched also the Future of Europe discussion. Only last week, the leaders of the EU have agreed the leaders' agenda, where they will discuss the Future of Europe issues until basically May 2019, within next years. And why it's relevant, I think, for you also is that you are the future of Europe. That I think youth is very much the
present.
The present, of course, also, but much more even the future. That when you think that I started with what is already there, it was not built with one day. It took like 60 years to develop it, and I think it's very much in your hands to shape the future of Europe also. And I think this is also a crucial aspect. More specifically on youth policies, I think a lot has been said. The Commission came out last year with the communication, investing in Europe's youth. For me, I think 3 key pillars: education, you all know Erasmus, all the opportunities, employment, and also participation. And I think this is also a crucial issue on how we can involve youth into the discussions, and how the youth can actually contribute to the European discussions, both in the areas directly concerning youth, but also in the more broader areas. As it was, you made a very good introduction of what happens next. You already said everything. I think many of the things I needed to say. But maybe to wrap up the process, then in 2018, the Commission will make a proposal on the new youth strategy, and all these discussions what you have here will feed into this strategy.
Okay, but Luis, what do you think? Are young people using all those opportunities? How can we use these opportunities that have been mentioned? We heard about future EU youth policies, that we are the future. You said it well, that we are also the present. What can we do here, now, at this conference, and maybe in other platforms?
Great, thank you, Tea. First of all, I just wanted to say a few thank yous. Thank you to the European Commission here in Estonia, but the rest of the European Commission team. Thank you to the Estonian presidency, really, for hosting us. This is magnificent, and thank you for shaking the process. I think you've been very disruptive in the whole world of the structured dialogue, and regardless of what the changes are, thank you for that innovation and for bringing that innovation on the table. And I wanted to give a special thank you to the Estonian National Youth Council, ENL. I know Ivo and his team are here. I would have liked you to be here with me, but thank you, because last week you changed the opportunities of an entire generation. For the last 10 years, you've been working so hard to provide this change on Vote at 16, and we saw it last week, and it's so exciting. And sometimes we just need to stop for a minute and understand that you've changed an entire generation. So I would like everybody to give a big round of applause, because you've given voice to those who didn't have a voice, and you've given a tool to those who could not have tools to influence the policies that affect their lives. And that is a big deal. And that is what, ladies and gentlemen, here, this is what it's all about. It's about giving voice to those that don't have voice and those who cannot be here with us. So ENL, wow, congratulations for that. How can young people use all of this? So I think that there's a whole new set of ways that young people can do this. Unfortunately, young people don't get to see what we're seeing here. So I think it's important that, first of all, we value that there are young representatives here who bring the voices of thousands and millions of young people and represent them. Like, we work with them to reach more young people, to make sure that what we discuss here connects to the ground, and then start innovating in how we capture the voices of young people. Youth organizations are a very strong model that has proven to work when getting young people to participate in formal, non-formal processes. But I think this generation, it being a generation that is technologically savvy and has grown up in a globalized tech world, is participating in a whole new set of ways that governments and institutions are not being able to capture. So I very much like the discourse of the Estonian presidency of we need to innovate in how we capture, we need to innovate new ways of youth participation, we need to open new spaces, and we need to make sure that these conversations that we're having here come back to the ground in those new innovative spaces. But always acknowledging who our partners are on the ground. And I think youth organizations, and it's important to make a bit of memory, the structured dialogue was not something given to young people because young people deserved it. Structured dialogue and all of these processes in the European level was something that young people fought for. And young people have been leading that conversation and asking for more. And that sometimes is uncomfortable to institutions and governments because we always want more. You give me your hand, I ask for your arm. And that's how it goes. That's how we progress, and that's how we innovate. So I think a call from my side also to our government representatives here to really value who your partners are on the ground, because it will be those youth organizations who will help you reach more people. It will be those youth organizations who will help you reach diverse groups of non-organized youth, marginalized communities, groups that normally don't have a say at the table. So cherish that partnership, because we're here to deliver the same results as you, but we're here to help you push your agendas even further with that naivety and that inspiration and lack of experience sometimes that allows us to push harder. So yeah. I think those are some of the ways that we can continue getting more young people to be engaged through creating more spaces on the ground.
But how to really make this change? Anett, you as a change maker, what would you say are necessary ingredients for achieving a change in a society? If we want to make some changes for a better future for young people, what do we need? What are the things that we should not forget about?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it might sound a little bit lame, but change comes from yourself. That's the easiest part. So if you want to make a change, you need to understand or need to decide on what you want to make a change. As we already said here also, you can't change everything at the same time really fastly. I think it's about the steps that you need to make. And when we talk about youth participation, I think it's important to really, if we have already created the spaces that you have where they can have a dialogue with the young, with youth workers, that we really listen to them, give them a voice, and find the little thing that they want to change in the society. And it doesn't have to be, as I said, you can't change everything really fastly. It can be a little thing. For example, you can change recycling, you can change how you implement creativity methods in youth work. You can change how you have a dialogue with your teacher. It can be really simple and little things, and I think that's what we need to start with. And what we often forget is that young people actually they understand the great responsibility. And I think, as you already told, the election that we now had that included the 16 years old 17 years old, that shows that young people can have responsibility in what they do and in what they say, and this means also that they can initiate change. And the more they are involved in the change that you want to make, the better the change will be. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, maybe really starting with small steps or small changes. But Peter, what would be the success for you? Like, would you be happy with small changes? What do you want to achieve here at the conference? What would make this conference successful? Because you are going to take over, you need to still have some results. What are your expectations regarding this conference?
Thank you, Thea. I would like to first to join Luis congratulating the youth team of the Tallinn presidency. You did an amazing job. So thank you so much for hosting us here. And also really thanking to the European Steering Committee on the structured dialogue, because we have spent, I could say, not really sleepless nights, but definitely long days really putting this together. And it's really amazing actually seeing this in reality. So thank you so much for really providing this platform for effective partnership. I could say that if I really could share my expectations from this conference in one word, I would use the hashtag think out of the box. Because I do believe that we have the unique opportunity to really reshape, renew, and re-innovate the structured dialogue. And this is also recalling the Council conclusions that were adopted during the Maltese presidency. Congratulations to our colleagues from Malta for really bringing this together, where actually in the Council conclusion, he says that we should renew the structured dialogue, trying to really provide a space for more young people, think to engage not only the organized youth, as Luis said, but also trying to really gather people who are not the usual suspects within the youth sector. I mean, trying to get just the regular young people who also needs to be heard, needs to say what they want from Europe. Because at the moment, we usually, when it comes to young people, we talk only about the challenges and the issues. I think we should talk about opportunities. Because at the moment, we face the world's largest generations of young people under the age of 25. And I think it's the time really to give the floor and not only use youth participation in a hashtag, in a post, but really practice youth participation in reality. And by youth participation, I mean meaningful youth participation, not only young people traveling and having pictures, but really giving them the floor to speak up and to really share what is their vision for the future that we want. And what we as the Bulgarian presidency are expecting, really to use the opportunity that the Estonia's colleagues are providing us to experience this blue sky thinking, open up our minds, think really out of the box, trying to get all ideas that comes to your mind, even if they're, crazy. I think we should really grab them. And because, I mean, who knows? I mean, this could be our chance to really build a Europe where we don't face any challenges. We live in peace, we live in sustainability, because we cannot have sustainability without peace. And this is a small reference to what you can expect in terms of priorities during the Bulgarian presidency, thinking of the young people as really agents of change and peace builders, really trying to engage them in different kind of levels. And I think something that the Prime Minister actually told, that we should be ambitious. And I would really invite everyone in the room, but also the people who are watching us online and really being on the social media, provide your input, be engaged, and really let's make this conference memorable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Indeed, yeah. We want to achieve quite a lot of things. And of course, I think it's quite clear the main method how we're going to do it, it's a dialogue. But maybe sometimes the dialogue, it's not the easiest thing that we can do. This is why also at this conference, we want to get maybe more personal. We really want to understand the people that we're talking with. And maybe sometimes knowing their background would allow us to get closer, to really understand, to know why somebody is asking for something or maybe opposing to something. So also with you, we want to ask you some maybe more personal questions. and see how do you relate to the topics. So we ask you to think of the one object. You were also able to bring it here or send it picture of an object or a moment or something like this that represents how you see the times of being young. What does it mean to you? So, Mr. Kasemets, would you like to share what you brought?
To see. I don't know, can you see? It's the building block.
Lego?
It's Lego, yes. In the old times you didn't have Legos, but the principle is the same. And it doesn't mean, of course, that I wanted to be a construction worker or even an engineer when I was young. But for me, it more symbolizes it's yellow, so I need to put it here, then you can see it better. No, here it's not so good. For me, it more symbolizes the creativity. I think it's amazing what you can do with combining these blocks and creating extremely interesting things.
Indeed, indeed. Luis.
Okay.
We know that you're still young, so...
Uli, don't kill me. But I brought a megaphone.
Oh, wow, okay.
I promise I won't use it. I'm not here to create a mess here. But I brought this because I have a background in activism, in student activism, actually. For me, it's kind of a symbol of what this is really about and how this all started, right? It's young people standing up and saying, enough. We've had enough of waiting for a government to provide things for us, and we're going to turn the table and try to change the conversation. So this is why the megaphone, I think, is so important, because for me it symbolizes young people rising up. And the things that come to my mind when I think of this is a generation that, thanks to the investments and efforts of previous generations, not calling anybody old, everybody's young in spirit, but thanks to those efforts and those investments, this generation has been able to benefit the most out of the European integration project. This generation is the most educated generation in our history, technologically savvy, access to the internet, globalized mentality, very educated and very globally aware. So this is a generation that understands the challenges of climate change, of discrimination, has been brought up with the motto of have an impact, be a change maker, transform reality around you. So it's this generation with so many possibilities, yet it's the generation that for the first time is most probably going to be worse off than their parents. The generation that cannot decide when to emancipate, when to have kids, when to buy a house, when to access education. It's the generation that is most discriminated towards building the life that they want. Despite having all of these opportunities in front of them, despite we've never seen so much progress in technology, in healthcare, in education. We've never seen it, but this is a generation with least access to it. It's a generation that has experienced so much discrimination on so many levels compared to the generation of their parents, it doesn't make sense, right? Because we've worked as societies to build all these opportunities, because when we have kids, we want our kids to have lives better off. But this generation is not able to access those. So that is per se a challenging thought. Yes, we do see data in this continent of getting out of the economic crisis, yet we see precarious jobs, we see young people not being able to afford homes, we see not being able to afford education, we see age-based discrimination, we see institutions trying to put young people in a box, where this is the most transversal community group to say. So that per se is a challenging thought, but I think we are seeing, even though that looks very dark, this is a generation that still brings a lot of hope to the table. So this is the generation, and the only generation, by the way, who is equipped to solve climate change. This is the only generation that, because we've suffered so much discrimination on different levels, The Economist said recently, this is the generation which is intolerant to intolerance. This is a generation that has grown up saying, enough. We will not take intolerance of any kind. We will not take discrimination anymore. That's not the societies we want to build. So despite how dark the future looks for this generation, this is the only one equipped to inflict that change with the support of the others. And I just wanted to, because Peter mentioned something very relevant that I think keeps coming back to the table, or how do we make sure that we reach more young people, or young people outside of the usual suspects, and how do we go further? And I think we at the European Youth Forum have made that proposal to the steering committee, and we hope that the Bulgarians and the Austrians and everybody else will carry this forward to expand that number of young people, to reach out more. And this is, I think, something we as youth organizations need to get better at. How do we make sure that we work aligned with governments to reach out more, better, more quality, without undermining the existing work? Because I think I have some examples here of who those usual suspects are. We have the World Scout movement here, or BESU, the high school students representatives here, who are doing projects on the ground with refugees. And how do we integrate young refugees to the discussion? Are those usual suspects? We also have Atte de Carmon, including young people like under the line of poverty. And how do we empower them to bring them to these policymaking conversations? And we have Yen involving people from different nationalities and minorities. So if you look around and you actually have a chance to talk to these brilliant youth representatives who are not here by chance, they're here democratically elected with a mandate from thousands and thousands of young people and as a strong constituents, you will understand that they are not the usual suspects. They work their asses, and sorry to say, every day to make sure to reach out to those vulnerable communities that normally don't have the chance to be here. So it's about having that conversation of how do we improve, and I think something that comes when, and I finish, I promise, when I think of the megaphone, back then when I was younger, I used to come to these conferences and come and really bash the governments and say, I will not talk to the governments, you're wrong and we're right, and this is what we want, this is what young people want. And I think when you grow a bit, you realize that we're all here for the same thing, you know. And I think our learning in youth organizations needs to be, we need to use governments because they are the ones who understand what realistically can be implemented. They are constrained by political agendas, budget cuts, political crises like xenophobic, national populist movements growing up in their countries, and they have all these constraints. And we need to work hand in hand to be able to advance the agenda of young people's rights, advance what young people need together. And it's only when we do that together that we will be able actually to implement change, like Voted 16 in Estonia, which was done together with the government. Without it, no matter how much you shout with this, it's not possible. So I think it's also a call for youth organizations to be strategic and use your government representatives in a smart way, because they secretly, but don't tell anyone, there are spies inside the governments. So they are here to advance your rights as much as possible with that other hat. But don't tell anyone, okay?
Thank you very much, Luis. Thank you for not using this right now, but maybe you can save it for the party, you know? It can be pretty loud.
Uli will kill me if I use it.
And Anett, you sent us some picture, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. What is it? Can you explain? What inspired you?
I was doing my European voluntary service a couple of years ago in Czech Republic, and I had a really special thing with me, which I hope will also soon be displayed. It was a pair of sunglasses, actually. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So we already talked about the fact that we need to understand what young people need, right? So when we want to understand what young people need, then young people also need to understand what they need. So these sunglasses were really special because when I was visiting the first time Paris during my European voluntary service, I wanted to make a selfie, as you said, want to take pictures in foreign countries. And as I did the picture, I saw that the Eiffel Tower was in my eye. And that was like a moment when the outside world was inside of me and I was in the outside world. So it was some kind of like universal magic happening there. But what is the big picture of it is that it helps you to notice what is around you, and the surroundings help you to notice what is inside you. So I think it's really, really important as a young person to discover what you want and what you need. And this is the part where everything around you comes to help. The government, the youth workers, the youth policies, the educational system, everything around you should support you to discover in your early years of what you need and what you want to achieve and what is the change you want to make and what is the thing you want to shout out, and that everything needs to come together. So this is a really important pair of sunglasses that I lost, unfortunately, but still.
Oh. Okay, thank you very much for sharing all this with us. And Peter? Peter, you sent us some picture as well, right?
Actually, I brought it as well, but it's in my hotel, of course, because I forgot it. It was
okay.
too early in the morning to function.
I can understand this.
Yes, actually, I mean, I didn't choose this picture and the object itself by coincidence. I mean, when actually I had to think of something that reminded me about, because I consider myself as a young person, still 26. So for me, I think when it comes to young people, it's about colors. It's about diversity, and diversity was the very same thing that was appearing in our discussions within the European Steering Committee when we were actually discussing how the sixth cycle should look like. And I think diversity really stays in the foundation of the sixth cycle and in the question of youth in Europe, what's next. And I think really bringing diversity, equality, and equity in the same room, I think this is one of the ways that we can actually have a success and really a direct impact out of the sixth cycle. And having the unique opportunity and luxury to design a policy document, and I'm referring to the European Youth Strategy, that is built upon our dreams, visions, and really the reality that we want to build for the young people, and they can feel inspired and empowered. I think this is the secret that we should actually share among us and really try to focus on this. And Luis, thanks God that there are youth organizations like the ones that you mentioned that are really fighting for the human rights, because we owe them so much. I mean, unfortunately, young people are facing many challenges. I mean, we should admit that with the economic constraints, with the political clashes, and definitely, I mean, more and more we support them. Definitely, I believe that we can really reach the local level, young people, the ones who are, unfortunately, for some reason, don't have the luxury to travel, to have some language barriers. And another things, I mean, use governments. And what I can say, at least from Bulgarian side, that we don't use young people, we empower young people. And we give them the platform to share their vision, to really build the ideas that they would like to see from Europe, because Europe is ours. And if we don't sustain it, and if we don't put the seeds that we can actually have them seen grown in years, we will not experience any sustainability, because it's a very critical moment now in Europe to really unite. It's about unification, it's about solidarity. And I do believe that this kind of events, this conference and the one that is upcoming in Sofia and the one in Austria will be the crucial events that will actually pave the way in the future of Europe.
Thank you very much. And this is exactly what the diversity and different aspects and topics, this is exactly what we want to address here at this conference as well. What really matters? How do we feel about it? So also for you, shortly, if you can answer very shortly on the question, what makes you happy? What makes you optimistic when we talk about youth today? Mr. Kasemets?
Yeah, maybe it's disappointing, but I don't think that youth today is somehow very different from the youth of I don't know, when I was young, or also the youth of the people who now are older. But I think what's the difference is that context has very much changed. And there are new opportunities which were not there before, and I think the same motive of creativity what I used before, and all the opportunities which come with the ICT, etc. And this is, I think, a big, this kind of competitive advantage to the youth today. I don't see it at all as this kind of negative thing. I would say that, in Estonia, there are many people who are saying that, it's the young people are always using these digital things and the phones, etc. I think it's only positive. And when we see how the economy is developing, when we see what opportunities it gives for a participation also, and really ensuring this diversity also, it's I think only a very, very positive development. So I'm very happy about it.
So a lot of positive things, a lot of opportunities. Luis, what do you think? What makes you happy? There have to be some good things. Come on.
Yes, absolutely. There are always good things. And I think, by the way, on that, I think statistics say otherwise, but about this generation and their opportunities. But I think what makes me happy is seeing all of this on the ground. So what makes me happy is to hear about projects related to the structured dialogue on the ground. What makes me happy is that youth organizations applying for funding and the European Commission aligning funding with the topics that are on the structured dialogue on the European level. Because make no mistake, you here are all privileged. You're all privileged to be here and to be part of this conversation. There are thousands and millions of young people that don't have that chance, and it's your responsibility to bring this back. And it's also a responsibility of the European Commission to make sure that these, because as the main European body, to make sure to work with governments to make sure that these conversations reach the ground. So it makes me happy to see that young people take responsibility, that young people say, we are going to be accountable for change, we're going to be accountable for those sustainable development goals on the ground, we're going to be accountable for this change. And yeah, so just one last example, and I promise I'll shut up forever. It makes me happy, young people organizing by themselves and acknowledging that mechanisms for them to access their own rights don't work. And after 10 years of calling for new mechanisms on youth rights, it makes me happy that young people have organized and put forward a collective complaint to go legally, let's say legally, against a country. Jan is going to kill me here because it's Belgium, and as much as we love Belgium, we have seen for the first time young people rise and say, enough. We are not going to wait anymore for this. These are our rights. These are human rights that need to be respected, and we are going to use the existing legal mechanisms to organize by ourselves and put forward a legal complaint towards a member state. So you have a dialogue between young people and a member state, which you have never seen before. If this goes forward, this will create such a precedent and will change the conversation on so many levels, including the structured dialogue. So what makes me happy is for member states, the European Commission and other institutions to start seeing young people as equal, to use young people and their energy and their drive and their visions to advance the agenda and not to put them on a stage and have a picture or any kind of tokenistic way. That conversation is changing, and the institutions are realizing much more that young people are, I mean, it's 50% of the global population. I mean, they cannot be, they cannot be excluded of the world. So it makes me happy, young people changing the role in the conversation on the political, social, economic processes going on around them.
Thank you. Anett, what makes you happy, optimistic about young people?
I think for me, as a youth worker, it makes me happy that we have so much more qualified people helping to make young people's ideas, their thoughts come through. That shows also here in this room that we have a lot of people who really care what young people think and who have the skills how to bring those thoughts into life, how to make those ideas really work. And I think it shows in the mobility programs, in the training programs, also in the university education where youth work is more and more present. And I think that is a step we need to really, or a way we really need to invest more in, that we have the people who are actually there to support young people when they need this support in, and that they are professionals and then they know what they do.
Peter, what are your thoughts? What makes you happy?
I'm always happy, but definitely one thing that will make happy, Luis, don't shut up, please. I mean, we need more young people to speak up and really take the floor, and even without, I don't believe, I think they hear me enough. I think what makes me happy is when I see a young person stand up for his or her human rights and really fight for them. I'm really happy to see this room full of energy and really potential to really come up with something meaningful out of these 3 days. What makes me inspiring to see our amazing partners from the European Commission, from the Secretariat of the Council of the European Union, the representatives of the member states, together with the young people really in the same room, in the same space, sharing, working, discussing, and really building a strategy, a framework that really answers the needs of young people, and that is flexible enough, that is really responding to the human rights, and in the same time, as Luis said, really going to the grassroots level, and hopefully when you go back to your countries, you actually share with your peers, because you have the credibility really representing them here during the 3 days and in the next few conferences that are upcoming, but really trying to raise their voices and bring this energy and inspiration out of the grassroots level to the European one, and really building something common and something that will be much more happy when we go back in few years and we have the adopted new European Youth Strategy that is actually responding to our vision.
Thank you very much. And for sure, indeed, what makes me happy, it's looking at all those people who I believe want to have a say in all this as well. So the next question is for everybody. We want to ask you, what do you think is the most important topic, the theme that we should discuss? What should be addressed during this conference? And I invite all of the participants sitting here to discuss maybe first in pairs and write some tweet or posts, and then we're going to get some responses from the floor as well. And for you, you will not get much more time to discuss because, of course, all the participants are equal here. So you will just write down on a piece of paper one topic, one word, okay? So think about it. I'll bring you the paper, the markers, just one thing, okay? And you as well. So let's see, what are the topics that we want to address at this conference? I'll bring you the paper.
Good job.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So,
Okay. So you have...
Oh my God. Only one word?
On one topic.
3 words.
Yeah, 3 words. Oops. We are behind the schedule, so less comments. Please keep it short, okay? Thanks.
Sorry. It's probably my fault.
Don't look what your neighbor is writing. Like, how is it going? Of course, we're going to discuss a lot of different topics, but let's just check, what do you think? What should be the topics? David, do you have some participants around you that you could ask?
Yes, so I brought a microphone and Perret did as well over here, and we'll just pop a few and ask you to just name the topic, and I'm sure you have a lot on your mind. And that is what we'll use the rest of the day digging into. So just to hear the first topics. Anyone at this table that has a topic in mind?
Okay. Hi, youth participation.
Youth participation, yeah. Anyone here?
Hi, mental health.
Mental health, yeah. Someone here?
Extremism.
Yes. And maybe refer to you, Perret, to hear a few voices from the other side.
Also here, by the way, see mental health also here written down, yes. But what is the topic that is important to you, very quickly?
Integration and social cohesion.
Great, great. What is cooking on this table? One theme for this conference?
One thing, youth active participation in decision-making processes.
Very great. Who has another topic? I see very happy, yes, faces, great.
The environment and climate change.
Huge topic. Who?
A lot of different things. And luckily, yes, indeed, we have 3 days to discuss all this. And also, exactly, you are going to be the one proposing the topics that we should discuss. But let's look back to our guests and speakers. What did you write on your papers? And please tell us, how is this relevant for future perspective? Shortly, just share with us what is the one topic that shouldn't be left out.
Clearly, I couldn't stick to one word. There is more, and I didn't offer any concrete policy area because there were many already mentioned that I think what I would like to emphasize once more, it has been mentioned already many times that I think it's very crucial also to discuss on how to involve all the young people into the discussions and how to ensure the diversity, because I think the opportunities are very different for young people, and this is of course one of the key problematic issues. So not to discuss only what to do, but also how to involve really as many young people as possible, and also thinking outside the box there and maybe using ICT tools, etc. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I think for me, given that this crowd has the enormous privilege of starting the conversation of what the next EU strategy looks like, I mean, you are going to condition the next 10 years of EU policy directed towards young people. So it's a big deal. It's 10 years of priorities, funding mechanisms, structures, spaces, etc. So I think my ask, and what I would love to see is the kind of thinking for the new EU strategy to be transversal, to be cross-cutting. Normally we work, when it comes to policy, we work in silos, in boxes. And to think outside of the box, we need to think of youth as something that cuts across all DGs of the European Commission, all institutions, all units, all teams, from the regional funds to the urban funds to the health to the employment. The EU strategy needs to bring that youth perspective and that lens of quality youth policy in all of those areas. If we limit the EU strategy to Erasmus+, that will not work. And I think it's a great opportunity also for us to give that mandate and to empower EUYC, in this case in the European Commission, to have more of that transversal cross-cutting role through institutions, through programs, so young people are not put into a box. Like, if we're going to think outside the box, let's really think outside the box and think of transversally across everything that the EU does on an international level.
Thank you. Anett, what do you think? What should we discuss here at this conference?
Yeah, well, I wrote mobility of youth and more concretely, maybe volunteering, because as we all know, the little dragon sitting in the corner, European Solidarity Corps, that is still a concept maybe not discussed enough and not thought about enough, and overall the needs of also outside of the Erasmus Plus program, the needs of people in mobility, overall young people, and also how to keep the human rights during these mobilities, that we don't lose focus on just gaining something from the volunteers and the volunteers giving back something to the countries where they are or the societies or the environments where they are, but also keeping in mind that these people who are traveling, who are moving around, that they have the important role also discovering themselves and shaping themselves. So not to forget about that.
Thank you very much. And Peter, what do you think we should discuss?
I have decided to put sustaining peace because it's actually combines so many things. Equality, diversity, human rights, really giving this holistic approach towards sustainable Europe, sustainable future, and hopefully sustainable European Youth Strategy.
Thank you. Okay, so we heard a lot of different things from diversity, then of course horizontal approach, cross-cutting approach about mobility and a dragon, of course, and peace and sustaining this peace. And we heard a lot of proposals from your side as well, and we can just let you know that those are all of the things that we are going to discuss. The floor is going to be open also later on for you to actually point out what matters to young people. So thank you very much, all the speakers, for starting to think about the whole conference, the whole background, the future steps, and so on, and to share some of your final thoughts with us. Please, what would you propose to young people here, shortly, or all the participants? What is the recommendation that we should take on board while working on those topics?
I can start.
Please.
I think what has been stressed out here a lot is that you have the responsibility. So every single person who is in the room has responsibility to contribute in what we do right now, right here. So don't take it as something that is just given to you. Really use it and be the voice that you have been selected to be, because it's really an honor to be in this room and to be a part of the decision making.
I don't think we need to hear anything more. Thank you very much. Thank you. We are finishing with this debate. You can sit here if you want to. Let's just give a round of applause for all the speakers joining us. But we also have some other stakeholders who wanted to address us, who wants to take part in what we're doing. We all know that the European Parliament plays an important role in shaping and shaking EU youth policy as well. So we're going to see a video from Petra Kamerevet, a chair of the Committee on Culture and Education of the European Parliament. So please enjoy the video.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by thanking the Estonian Ministry of Education and Research for inviting me to make a few opening remarks as the chair of the European Parliament's Culture and Education Committee. It strikes me not to be with you in Tallinn, but I have to attend the plenary session in Strasbourg this week. Over the next 2 days, you will have a chance to explore in some detail and at first hand what really matters to the young people today. The millennial generation will be in the near future be responsible for our continent, so it is valuable to hear their voice and already provide them with ways to shape politics. That is where the structured dialogue truly helps to generate a shared added value for all parties involved. Young people can engage while we, as decision makers, learn about the issues that they are relevant for young people in their local community context. The individualistic approach is appropriate given the diversity of Europe and the different realities young people in Europe are facing. While the training and job opportunities in some parts of Europe are manifold, young people in other member states are facing social marginalization and a lack of perspective. It is important for young people to have the opportunity to develop and demonstrate their knowledge and their abilities, but society often does not give them a chance to show what they are capable of. If we want to promote unity within the European Union, we must observe social disparity between the member states. Above that, it is important to provide young people with opportunities to engage actively and help tackling significant social challenges. Therefore, I welcome the proposal by the European Commission for a European Solidarity Corps. Also, I would have wished for a more participative process prior to the proposal. The underlying assumption of the ECS is that through concentrating voluntary possibilities and collectively branding the voluntary activities under one name, the supply and demand can be better matched. While we are happy that the Commission puts young people in the heart of their agenda, we must also take measures that the Solidarity Corps cannot be misused as a source for cheap labor forces. I believe that the EU provides the European youth already with manifold opportunities to get to know the life, education and jobs in other countries. And I think that's why it is Euroscepticism remains a domain of the elderly and not of the young people. In 2017, Erasmus Plus celebrated 3 decades of enriching lives and opening minds. The program has enabled many Europeans to enhance their employment opportunities, improve their skills, open windows into new culture, and participate fully in democratic life. So far, 9 million people and 155,000 institutions have benefited from EU grants and training. Because of programs like Erasmus+, young people get a first-hand experience of what the EU actually does for them. To safeguard the program's success and widen access to help those who cannot easily afford living abroad, Erasmus+ needs a very much larger budget. As chair of the Keit committee, I will continue to stand up for these matters. I would like to thank you again for the invitation, and I wish you all a very enjoyable and productive 2 days at the first EU Youth Conference. Thank you very much.
So, we have heard quite a lot of recommendations, proposals, inspirational words, how to make this conference a success. But how are we really going to do it, Piret? What is the program? What's in front of us?
Yes. You want to stay here or find a wonderful group of people to join? Thank you once more. Yeah. And just to say that I see some of the topics also posted. Actually, one thing that if you haven't done a picture, you could do that and put it on Facebook or Instagram. And leave your papers on the table. We will collect them also later, not to lose them. But I will very shortly, before we have a break that we all deserve, go through a few elements about the program. I'm sure you all have this with you. It's something that you can always look at the program, the timing, and everything. So don't forget it either. There are also some important numbers on it. But what I also heard from this very short morning was few words about participation and being ambitious. I also want to say that we create this conference together. Of course, there are like a number of people who have been at the back of this conference, but it happens together with us, and all 3 days are important for the final results. So if you're already like feeling that when do we start and dig deeper into the conversation, then we start already shortly after the break. I think what is also interesting to also maybe highlight is that this diversity is far more bigger than maybe we notice and realize. We have far broader groups and countries presented here. We have heard about EU member states and Eastern Partnership countries, but also EFTA and EEA and candidate countries. So it is a widening realm as well. So let's try to see how can we work all of this together. There will be a lot of self-organizing. I've heard already people asking me, should I sit with the same people? Should I move around? Should I propose a topic? So we will guide through you step by step. You don't have to worry about that. But also, we are here in this space together, so let's take care of it as well. So you can self-organize your topics. So if this topic that is now written on your piece of paper is still important for you, for example, tomorrow, then we open a space for self-organized groups to work around that. We are different in terms of walks of life and where we work. Then also make sure that grab all the people who are maybe working in the commission, at the commission or at the ministry, that you also take responsibility of finding a dialogue with them. Even maybe it's having a coffee together. I'm sure you can approach somebody from a commission and say, let's have a coffee together and talk. And it's been told already that one of the most smartest people are in this room, so I'm not going to stay with that. We are working together using 3 principles: head, heart, and hand. We are a lot, and this morning it's going to be the longest session just listening. But head means that really explore and inquire into what matters. Is this a topic that you really care about? There's somebody has said that you cannot solve the problem you're not willing to have. And that there's a big, deeper meaning on that. Heart, it's both bringing your passion, but also listen with empathy. English is not a first language for many, for example. We might have different viewpoints, but we can still listen with empathy. And connecting to others who might be somehow having a different opinion than us. It is a big work to do that. My everyday work is on participation. I like to hear the word dialogue, but how many times I've been in places where it's not happening. It's for us to actually practice it. And hand, meaning that making your voice visible using different formats. And we are here in this creative hub and bringing a little bit of creativity in as well. We forgot the Lego, but we have some other things to build as well. Yeah. And anytime you have any questions, don't hesitate to come to 3 of us. Practical announcements, do we have any? David, oh, here you are. So you have like 2 seconds for practical announcements.
And then it's coffee time, right?
Yes, there is a coffee time.
Okay, so I just want to send you on a break with a few practical informations about this venue. So it's a Kulturikal, talent culture, like talent creative hub. And it's an old power plant that you might have seen when you've been walking around the venue. If you haven't explored it yet, take your time in the break also to go around. In the program that you got, this folder in your welcome bag, there's also a map of the venue. And we will be working on 3 different floors. So there's more like floor 0, 1, and 2. And feel free to walk around them and explore the space. There is also a corner in the hallway out here with this spray printer, graffiti almost, where you can make a graffiti of your Instagram posts. There's also a description on how that actually works, but we will get like walls of pretty cool pictures, spray printed with a hand printer based on the Instagram post you like the most. But also read the description on how to do that here and find it in the lobby. And then you probably already met the robot that's driving around with candy. In the hallway as well, there's this entrepreneurial space where some of the most promising entrepreneurs from Estonia showcase some of their things. So you can also go and have a look there if you need a bit of inspiration. Else, the program is in this folder. On the back side of it, there's also the website, Wi-Fi information for the place. So if you haven't connected, you can do that. I think the last thing is that you might notice that some of us are wearing these badges. The whole crew of organizers have these badges. And what's specially to be aware of is the yellow badges with a V on, stands for volunteers. You probably already met them, some at the airport or at the hotel. They are guiding you through this, so if you have any questions, just find them. They're also always available at the entrance. There's an information desk, so if you have any issues, you can go there, you can get another program, and there's also someone to contact, and there's also contact information in this. More to say, Piret?
I've also heard that coffee is a human right.
Coffee is a human right?
Yes.
So let's get to that. We'll do a break now until 12 o'clock, and then we start at 12 in here again. So you can have a walk around the venue or find coffee in the hallway. Enjoy your break.